I want to give some credit in my life to someone. Back in 1989, I was going to my first year university, Nova Scotia, Canada, and I lived in residence. But it was the guy who lived next door that I'm going to tell you about. You know him as Powerland. Math Powerland. So, first of all, thumbs up to everything he's doing now and all the things that he's been doing. Back in 1989, he was my next door neighbor in residence. And just want to tell you a few things about this guy. We're going to expose Math Powerland. He was the sort of guy who was always, you know, talk. He was just on and on with all sorts of ideas and perceptions, but they came out really quickly. Me, I could follow him, so for me it was wonderful and intriguing to hear someone's, you know, really using their mind. While, like I said to him recently, you know, the TV lounge where there was the TV. Makes sense, right? You know, when Boylan would get talking, you know, he could just clear the room because none of them could follow. They really couldn't. And so, because a lot of what he was saying was going right over their heads, but I was paying attention. I was trying to pay attention. It was still hard to follow, you know. The creative mind at work, like a guy who's been really given the gift of, we'll say it's perception by God. So it's amazing to see now, and it was back then as well. So he's an ultra high realist painter. I'm sure most of you know, and so I was also into painting then. And so this guy, Matt, my neighbor there, I was just like, you know, could not believe the paintings he was doing. Like, he just makes the rest of the art world seem so remedial, right? So, and it was like that back then too. It's a nice ringtone, eh? It makes you want to have a nap. Hello? Hi. Oh. Security. Okay, but they're exempt. Okay, so Boylan, because I mean, I enjoyed talking with them and listening. There's more listening involved than talking, but you know, he's got the ideas flying out of him like La Palma. It's great. But what was I on there about? When it came to the painting, he taught me how to, you know, paint a sky where you know people don't notice this, but at the horizon it's lighter in color, and as you move up it gets darker and darker. So he taught me back then to do that, to you know, gradiate my skies first and then add in the clouds and everything else later. But you just start with the sky and back and forth, and I watched him back and forth. The guy would be doing the sky like for a couple days, sky, just to get the gradient perfect. Back then I recall him telling me that was because there was more particulates in the air closer to the horizon, but I bet he'd have a different answer for us today. Anyways, the situation I want to tell you about is we had a bunch of like total pricks on our floor, and this was residence. This was a paid for place, part of the university residence there, called McIsaac. And they had this initiation they would do during orientation week that the second year guys would do to the first year guys. Like, they had no right, they just sort of like, we arrived there, you know, with our trunks. And there's one particular prick that I remember when me and my roommate arrived with our trunks. We took the train there We arrived there, we drag our trunks across, we pull it into, and we hear like breaking glass. We're like, what the? And this guy comes around the corner just in his boxers, like drunk, taking a bottle, a liquor bottle, and smashing all the light bulbs as he went down the hallway. That was our introduction to this place. And it was full of fucking idiots like that. This guy Wog. Anyways, back to Matt. So this initiation thing's going on, and they were degrading a lot of us. Maybe there was 15 young guys and 15 older guys. You know, they were making the whole crew go into the shower, a cold shower, and then strip naked, okay? And then sit up on the TV stand, and they were like naked. You know, they were then like hitting the, you know, hitting everyone's penises with a fly swatter, this sort of thing. It was warped. And the shrinky dink guys there, some of them really took it to heart. And one guy quit school after that. He was mortified by that experience. It was terrible abuse that was happening. They made the bunch of them run through the river in their bare feet. They all were cut. They were like in their underwear. Yeah, this was in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. It was terrible. And it was going on day after day, this sort of like humiliation effort, and like, you know, yelling at us and lording over us. Like, it was warped. So then this one day, I remember Boylan's my neighbor, so he and I are going through this. And, you know, you're going along with it. It seems like, oh, is this what happens here every year? Like, this is the tradition. So here we are now in the TV lounge again. 3 rows of 5 guys. The young guys, of course. They give the first guy in each row, and Boylan's at the front of the row beside me to my left. Half an O. Henry bar and half, that's a chocolate bar, and half a banana. And they have to chew it up. And then they turn around. Of course we're in our underwear probably, like, so weird. So then the first guy chews it up, turns around and spits it into the hands of the next guy, who has to put it in his mouth, chew it up, spit it into the hands of the next guy, to the back of the line, 5 guys, and then back up to the front. Now everyone's had to go through this drool, like, it's repulsive. But they did that. So Boylan is the front of the line. So at the end these articles, yeah, you guys are the front of the line, you think you got off easy. Because they didn't have to put the gob in their mouth. You think you got off easy, and they say, now you're going to have to eat it. And you know, and Boylan at that point just was like, that's it, I'm done, this is bullshit, you guys are, whatever words he used, he stood up to them, he said, you guys are pricks, man, there's no way I'm gonna eat that, you're crazy. And he probably said something like, the rest of you are crazy for putting other people's gob in your mouth just now, you know. But at that moment, there was like a flash of insight that he provided me, that it's just emblazoned on my mind, okay? That if idiots, you know, presenting themselves as authorities, tell you to do something that's ridiculous and inane, and they have no right to tell you to do, you know, you can just stand up to that and say no. And as soon as you say no, and at that moment that I watched Boylan do that, Powerland, I was like, yeah, you don't have to go along with shit in this world. If it's wrong, you can stand up to it. And then what happened? I asked him earlier today before making this video, we'll find out later, you know, if he got any pushback from them. Well, maybe they called them names or something. Like, what's going to happen? You know, you just say no to them. Then they lose their power. And it's exactly the same today. And when I came across math last year and started to learn what he's been up to since school, it's just fantastic, man. And I'm going to tell you this, the guy that you see talking, you know, that everyone enjoys listening to, it's just the way he was when he was 18 years old. Okay? So there's no show going on here like that. And I saw him do stand up one time in Ottawa as well. Really good, really good. But you know, like, I think I was probably laughing out loud. He's the sort of guy with comedy that you have like interspersed people who get it, like, you know, he weeds out the geniuses in the crowd. Anyways, thanks Matt. It was great tracking you down again, and for all y'all, the dude's authentic, and you know, he legitimately is really, his perception's sharp, and I think it always has been, so we should listen to him. Take her easy. When he stopped doing it, he just stopped participating in that stuff, you know. And what? He was an outcast among some dorks that he really didn't want to hang out with anyway. They were terrible. So I wasn't too noble. I just was like, I use a different way. And you know, I wasn't the guy to swallow the chocolate bar and the banana, but I put the stuff in my mouth, man. Before boiling, it stood up. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to add that in. I also wanted to add, like, it went on for, you know, the rest of that week that these jerks were like putting the younger guys through hell. And like I say, a couple of them quit school because of it. So even when Matt stood up to them and I weaseled out of it, they still all went through this for really no good reason.